Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start recording. And as I stated before we get into this, I was saying that the website Bleeping Computer, so popular, Google's got it on there. So what's gone on over the weekend?
AT&T got hacked or something.
It's T-Mobile.
Well, I heard AT&T did as well, but AT&T said
Lock file ransomware uses Petit Potom attack to hijack Windows domains. Okay. There's an Exchange proxy shell bug. You're running your own Exchange server. Most people are stopped running their own Exchange server, I believe, and just moved over to Office 365.
When's Windows 11 supposed to come out?
November, I do believe. You can only upgrade if you got an 8th gen Intel chip or higher. You'll have to look at their spec. I don't know what level they are at. 8th gen.
That's still fairly new.
Yes. So security guidance on 365 cloud PCs. It's one thing if you do have cloud computing devices, what is the security stance? So many companies require you to implement the security. So just because it's in the cloud doesn't mean that they will do security. So a lot of cool stuff there. Let's look at Intel 8th gen release date. So when did the 8th gens come out? 2017. But those were bleeding edge at 2017 Christmas, and probably not a lot of people bought them. You've probably seen more purchases of them the next fall when they got more into the market. So you're looking at 2018. So any computer pre-2018 probably is not going to take Windows 11.
Is it going to be free for people who have Windows 10 already, or?
I don't know. I think maybe.
Sometimes.
We'll see what Microsoft's going to do this round. Okay, so let's look at, we get into chapter 2. We have threats, attacks, and vulnerabilities. So identify threat actor types, describe their strategies and defense strategies is in this section. So you have targeted attack. Somebody's targeting you. Why? Why would they target you? Maybe you're Chick-fil-A. Who would target Chick-fil-A? What organization would target Chick-fil-A?
Burger.
PETA.
Oh.
PETA would be a big target of Chick-fil-A. Burger King, some of the others, yeah, but PETA would be more of one that would want to do, shut the company down so they stop killing chickens. You have opportunistic attacks. We talked about those. Insider, disgruntled employee, mistakes from an insider competitor, Burger King, McDonald's, KFC. KFC is the big one probably, Popeye's chicken against Chick-fil-A. Just a random hacker, cyber criminal, wanting to steal money, nation state, Iran attacking us, ASUBB, nation state, North Korea, the attacking of the Sony. So other key terms, internal threat, external threat, persistent threat. Means it's somebody just constantly going to be breathing down your neck trying to break in. The Iranians. Non-persistent threats, open source intelligence, network, white hat, black hat, gray hat, all these key terms. So definition, we're covering pretty much all of these. Cyber criminals wanting, to gain money, nation state. It's pretty easy. It's a country, a sovereign state. Those are hard. They got lots and lots of basically nearly unlimited resources to try to attack you. Internal threat, again, external threats. Look at the persistent threat definition. A threat that seeks to gain access to a network and remain there undetected. Non-persistent threat, focusing on getting in, stealing the information, and then just leaving. One time, we stole the secret formula to KFC's chicken. And they don't care to, once they got their stuff, they don't care to stay persistent. So open source intelligence, information that is readily available to the public and doesn't require any type of malicious activity to obtain. White hat, skilled hacker who uses their skills. They are hired and paid by companies to attack systems, to look for vulnerabilities, and there is express written permission is given. White hats got thrown in jail not too long ago, within the last 5 years, and were held over the weekend because they broke into a courtroom. They were hired by the county to do a penetration test on the court's computer system. Well, they got into the building, and then the cops found them and picked them up. And apparently there was some miscommunication on the scope that they were going to go and try to attack. And there's miscommunication with the court and the police on when that was going to be happening. Of course, it's also kind of a bad thing that you alert somebody as, hey, we're going to try to be attacked such and such day. So they're more vigilant during that time. So this was kind of an unknown, and it was a good penetration attack because systems work. They got caught by police. So physical security, stuff like that worked. That was a good thing. The bad thing is they had to spend like 3 or 4 days in jail, and then the judge had to determine, was that legal or not legal, because we hired them to do this. So white hats, make sure you've got your scope, and if you have a chance of being arrested. So if you don't have everything nice and spelled out that, hey, this is what I'm hired to do and I followed my job, and even if you do that, you might still end up 3 days in jail until you can get in front of a judge and you can get a lawyer to go, look, we have legal rights to do that. So if you have jobs like that, going to jail is something you can rarely expect, but might expect. Black hat, they're just evil. And they're going to use the same skills as a white hat person, but they're doing it illegally. They're not hired to do anything. And then gray hats, using the same skills, but they kind of cross the line because they're trying to be helpful. They're trying to be good community citizens, but they weren't hired to be a good community citizen. And they try to fix stuff. So they kind of blurred a line as, oh, I fixed this for you, but I didn't want that fixed because it broke something else. Yes?
Typo, or what's going on
Where?
in gray hat at the bottom? Good intention.
Yes, that is a character type issue, the apostrophe
Oh, I see.
wasn't read correctly. So when it was converted into a different encoding, it didn't know what to do with the apostrophe and it threw up some weird letters. So that happens if you go from one like Unicode to ASCII to something else that can get confused on symbols. Most letters are about the same, but when you get to special symbols and stuff like that, you'll see this a lot of time with the apostrophe. So threat actor types, there's your easy money, smash and grab. See a wallet that somebody left, steal it. You're not the nice person and look and get the driver's license and try to give it back to them. You got to be the nice person, but that's the opportunistic threats, people that are just not nice. Ransomware. Your computer's been encrypted. You have so many days to pay thousands of dollars sometimes to get your data back. Targeted attack, very dangerous. They're methodical. They use application programmable APT attacks, sophisticated, stealthy. They try to remain hidden. They hate you. Somebody hates you in this world. Somebody loves you though. And two ends of the spectrum. Stuxnet, worm, industrial centrifuge. Oh yeah, Stuxnet. We did this. Nation states attacking nation states. So we may have also had some help with the British, but Iran was enriching uranium. They're still doing it. We didn't want them to enrich uranium to the point where that they could make nuclear bombs. So what did we do? We were able to infiltrate the computer systems that were controlling the centrifuges, and we could slowly change the rotation speed of the centrifuges over time. So we sent the worm that infected all the centrifuges in Iran, and we slowly slowed them down and then like sped them up and slowed them down just by a few revolutions per minute difference. But dealing with that type of material, a slight change completely destroys the job of about 10,000 centrifuges. So all of the material was ruined. So that was nation state attacking a nation state. Why is that concerning? I have alumni, those are graduates of this program. They're working for our First Electric Cooperative. If you're working for a utility, I've had other students work for the water company. At the time, they were not working for the IT department. They were actually working for the water company, and we would have to shovel the dirt off the floor when they left because they didn't knock the mud off. It just fell off the boots. It was like, come on, dude. You should probably have a separate, should have talked to him. So you need to bring a separate pair of shoes, change into when you come to class. But things like those companies, they have nation states that would love to just shut the power grid down to the US because they just hate us. North Koreans, Iranians, the Taliban, they probably just think it'd be just tickle and pink to shut the whole US power grid off if they could. And yes, you do have that opportunity to go work for these companies. Students before you are working there now, so. Insiders. It's a Karen. It's going to take over. She's going to delete stuff just because somebody ate her chicken salad or she thought.
Yeah, but she probably threw it into the recycling bin.
She did. So she's going to get even because she did it herself. So she's going to get the other person. Personal vendettas, bribes, dangerous but commonly overlooked insiders. Probably the most dangerous type and hardest type. The unintentional threat actor, the idiot, does something bad. So the unintentional threat actor. We'll talk about K through 12. There's a high school, they got a computer system. It dials the parents and lets them know if their kid has been absent that day or what periods. They've had these systems. I remember when I was in the, in the 80s and stuff, the calling and letting my parents know when my brother missed. So these systems, computer systems, have been around for a long time, automated systems. So this one school, the server running this software would shut down every Friday.
So you just miss every Friday.
So over the weekends that it wouldn't work. And somebody I'd come back in, turn the machine on Monday morning, they wouldn't know why that would be shut off. It just like crash and shut down every Friday. And they had to power back on Monday morning. So they kept working with the vendor that provided the server, because they have special modem boards and stuff, the voice synthesizer boards that were specifically built to call and read these text messages that all the teachers would put in, and it would have to convert the text to voice. And they talked to them, and after a couple of months of trying to remote support and check the systems, like, we don't know why it's going bad. Finally, the vendor flew an engineer, and they sit there on Friday to watch this server. And as they watch the server, they're sitting there all day long. Janitor comes in and cleans up, waters some plants and stuff, and they're still sitting there, and janitor leaves. All of a sudden, one of the plants that was hanging above the server overflows the little bottom catcher. It hits the top of the server, runs back towards the power supply, down to the case. The fan is a high pressure, so it's pulling air into the case instead of blowing it out. So it pulls the water into the power supply. The power supply makes a pop, and the server turns off. And he goes, "Found it. Move the plant." Here's the that was the solve of that. That was an unintentional, and it was a janitor unintentionally shutting the server down every Friday because they watered the plant and put too much water in it, and it overflowed. So the solution was to make sure the plant was not hanging over the top of the server anymore, so it wouldn't drain water into it. Crazy stuff. So that's unintentional. You like that story?
True story?
It's a true story. Yes.
Well, you have plants in their server room.
It was a school. They didn't have a server room. So just like random places they would stick servers, and this just happened to be in the teacher's lounge.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
I'm not 100% sure. I heard this at BB, and their server was in the teacher's lounge. I'm thinking it possibly what I think it was another one, but the vendor, we had one of their servers, and we were told that from the vendor. So, threat actor types. Shadow IT. So basically somebody tries to pretend to be, or somebody has more access than they should. You can trick the IT person too. What's he doing? He's okaying rights to both people. But this lady's the bad lady. She's not actually a member. Things like that can happen. Competitors, corporate espionage. Maybe they send somebody to go get a job. What job would you send a really smart IT person to get at a competitor's company? What job would you send them to go get at your competitor?
Security?
Janitorial staff. Why would you send them to be janitorial staff? What do they give to janitors? They give the keys to everything, and they're there after hours at night, typically, and they have the keys to everything, so they can go clean up. They can go get into the server rooms and clean stuff, and nobody's there, and they can sit down and sabotage. So you're not only learning like what can happen, you're learning how can I, have some espionage going on. Then you can tell your company you go work for, look, we can send somebody to go get the janitor job. That way they can steal stuff because they'll have the keys to everything. So, and hackers, they just try to break things in. Why? Attention getting, bragging, just simply the adrenaline rush, thrill of it. So criminal, reward, hacktivists, script kiddies are all type of hackers. You're sitting in high school, you're bored, just trying to hack stuff, script kiddie.
We had a kid in high school that shut down the entire, everything, because he used a .bat file to get into command prompt, and then he just shut everything down. I think he just beat us the servers.
Yeah.
The specifics.
If it literally powered the systems off, he probably just somehow had enough, for some reason his account had enough rights to run the shutdown command, and you could script it to just read all the computer names and send the command to everybody. Yep. So they can be criminals, rewards, activists, PETA, hacking around because they don't like KFC and Burger King and anybody that likes tasty animals. Is anybody a vegan in here and don't like tasty animals? We don't mean to offend. So there's your different attackers. You can identify them because they do wear these color hats. I'm just kidding. So malicious, good intentions, and then a good person gets paid, helps companies improve security. Cyber criminals. They make lots of money. They are motivated by money. And then all the nation states. So we get to the end of that section anyway. Any questions? Our presentation is going to basically be covering the cyber criminal. So look here. Presentation 1, due on Monday. So you'll present from your seat. I will display your screen up here, and you'll just talk from your seat for social distance. So you're researching an ID theft case. If you've had your ID theft stolen, or a relative or a parent, you can use that. If you don't have anybody that's like that, you can search the internet. There are lots and lots and lots of them. So FYI there. Also due, not Monday, but Friday, is test out chapters 1 and 2. The labs and quizzes are what's being graded, not the videos, not the text being read, only the labs and quizzes. So if you have to answer a question or you have to do a simulation and click with your mouse, those are what are being graded. Let's check out this general attack strategy. We looked at Kali Linux, and they basically kind of had stuff almost in a row of an attack strategy. So reconnaissance, one of the reconnaissance things is what type of hardware is the company using? What network? Maybe what routing protocol and stuff. Investigate the users. Why would you want to figure out things about users? Social engineering is one big one. You ever you want to hack a car dealership. So you kind of go in and you meet the receptionist. And you look around her desk, you look, see if there's kid pictures or different stuff. Look for names, get names of everybody. And then you can call in later, call people by their names, ask them how their 2 kids are doing, because you've seen the picture of them on the desk, and they think, this person knows me. And then you can get them to do things like give you their passwords. Yes. Or you can call up IT. You know, you can go listen to somebody and try to have really big companies kind of just have a female or male voice and call up and have enough information about that person because you figured out what they were, and the central IT may not even be in the state. Called IT that's in Illinois and talk to them, have them reset the password for the account of somebody that's at work, and now you've got the login. So remember the takedown of Kevin Mitnick movie? A lot of that is shown in that movie, how that he used social engineering. Dumpster diving, what does that get you? More names. It also gets you what's been purchased. Maybe you can figure out what projects and stuff are going on, or the bad guy can figure that out, and then they can call in and be knowledgeable, being able to use keywords and stuff. Intimidate, sympathy. So you can intimidate somebody. Or you can use just the good-hearted nature that most people have. Crying on the phone, I lost this, blah, blah, I need this reset. Okay, here you go. You can use technical. This is more complicated. This is easier. Just calling and requesting access is a lot of times easier. Technical exploit, port scanning. We did that Friday with Nmap. And we did banner grabbing and stuff. Ping sweep, see what returns the reply. You probably do a ping sweep first, and then you start port scanning those machines. So ping sweep, build a list of IPs that are accessible, and then do a port scan on those IPs. So that's your reconnaissance. Try to breach. Breaching is either using social engineering or some type of an exploit, because you port scan and figure out this particular port's vulnerable, and I can use an exploit to break in, get system access or root level access to the computer. System and root level access is the escalating privilege. Sometimes attacks are two-stage. Sometimes you can exploit a web browser, and once you've exploited the web browser, you've got access of whoever was running that web browsers that was logged into that computer. And now that you've got local access, you run a local exploit onto the system to escalate you further up into a system or root privilege. And then you can stage, you can upload backdoor software for persistence. So how do you stop that? Username, password, is that good enough? Not quite. Why is that not good enough? We just went over to social engineering. I went over to the white hats that we hired in to penetrate our network. I told you there was like 19 faculty or something like that that gave their username and password away through email phishing. What's your defense against compromised username and password? What did we implement? Duo, multi-factor authentication. So if the username and password's exploited, the hacker is not going to have the Duo to click approve. Still not perfect. There's still systems that they could get into without using Duo, but it does help a lot. There's the two-factor thumbprint, retina scan, smart card. All your credit cards now are smart cards, pretty much. They got that chip on them. Before credit cards, they used smart cards. They didn't, there's the same chip technology. They had a little reader that you had to have the card along with the PIN code. So you had to know something and you had to have something to be able to get into the computer. Multi-factor authentication. What's this? Castles? What are they trying to show us?
One's got no moat, one's got a medium-sized moat, the other one's got a big old moat.
So what type of security is this? Physical security. Good. They should have had alligators and sharks and cottonmouths floating around in here. Uh-oh, they're attacking. Why did they attack this castle? It's easier to get in. Would you try to scale the fence that has razor wire on it, or would you try to crawl through a barbed wire fence? I'd probably just try to crawl through a barbed wire fence and go attack that place other than one with razor wire. I don't want one of my jugular veins to be sliced open by accident, bleed to death. Principles of least privilege. What is principles of least privilege? What's its main goal? Anybody heard of this before?
To give the right persons the right amount of privilege or whatever.
Pretty close. So you give the person the privilege, only the privileges required to do their job function and no more. It's always best to err on the side of more restrictive And if they can't do something for their job, you can adjust that. So any memos and stuff that you get, always err on the caution of like, should I give them this right or this right? Always err on this, on the more restrictive. And this is really, really true for IT staff. They're following finally better practices here on our campus, where that IT staff has to have 2 logins. They've got one login that they got access to their email and to be able to do day-to-day task stuff with. And they've got a separate account that has domain administrative privileges. And they always log in with their regular account to do work. And then if they have to, they can right-click on a particular tool. You remember LAN class, Active Directory users and computers, they right-click on that on their desktop and tell it to run as, and then they type in their administrative and run that one application as a higher privilege, and then they close it out when they're done. So they have implemented that. In the past, they just had a couple of generic administrative accounts that everybody used. The problem though was when configuration changes were made, it just showed that this generic IT account made the configuration change, and then they didn't know which IT staff did it, so they couldn't call and ask what's going on. Why was this done?
We had a word for this. I remember the words, but it's traced back to.
Non-repudiation.
Yeah, it's not.
So now that they have separate accounts, they can track who's doing what. And they're also, because they are logged in as a regular user, I just told you that if you exploit Firefox or Chrome, you break into that, you've only got that user's rights that was running that exe. It makes it harder on them because they'll have to figure out, is there a local exploit available for that operating system to escalate the privilege? If there's not, then they're stuck. If there is, then they have to do and be smart and be able to do another second exploit after they broke in the first through Chrome. But if they're running as admin, hey, I don't have to do, I'm just instant admin because I took over Chrome, or I took over Notepad++, or I took over VLC media player. You can. VLC has lots of patches out because yes, that is one entryway into a network. If you're running VLC media player as an admin and it's exploited, and people like to watch videos, it's easily to send like a video of somebody, hey, look at this chick fight and something like that, and get people to watch it and exploit the system. But some of these little programs that you don't think would be an issue, they're actually the major issue because people think they're non-essential applications, and how are you going to get an exploit through this? Adobe PDF files are a major influx. You ever get the little PDF files and emails saying that your package's orders coming through, open it up? It's because it's chock full of viruses, because they just found a new exploit for Adobe Reader. Like, let's try to break everybody, take over their machines. Okay, randomness, personal habits, password change intervals, obscuring information. Obscuring information. Remember how you made a hidden share in LAN? Put a $sign at the end of it. It's not just right out there in the face. That's something that can help. Personal habits, changing stuff up, maybe job rotations, or that somebody's not constantly doing the same job over and over, that you rotate jobs. Also, if somebody gets sick and out for COVID, job rotations help. Helps in 2 different ways. Causes randomness, and somebody else is trained in multiple positions and somebody dies or is out for a while. So that's all that section. What's the difference between persistent and non-persistent?
Persistent is reading, constantly trying to get something. Non-persistent is like they're in it.
Right. They jump in, they steal one thing, they don't want anything else, they're gone. And persistent, yes, they're constantly trying to maintain connection to the network. What protections can you use against organized crime?
Randomness.
Randomness, lots of employee training for social engineering attacks, ID theft, stuff like that. And posters constantly. Posters in the break room, anything that employees frequent, something like, did you remember this? Maybe give them some tools on how to protect their kids or their parents from getting scammed out of their money. It's like, we're providing this for free for you. And that will also help with the education and training, and realize that this isn't just for the company. They're trying to protect me at home, and they're trying to protect my family at home. And they'll have a lot different look at when you implement new security measures, and you got to make it personal to them. You got to social engineer, and that's why they're bringing non-IT people into the IT world that have better social skills. Which method can you use to access an application or operating system for troubleshooting? That's basically the principles of least privilege. You always want to access it with the lowest privilege possible and only escalate to an admin account for the specific apps and stuff. And they'd also be talking about, can you access it remotely? Is it secure? Do you have to VPN before you can access an internal machine? Things like that. And defending a network, physical security. Put on DHCP guards, spanning tree. You might also force which are trunk ports and which are access ports, so they won't auto negotiate. If somebody plugs in a laptop and the laptop says I'm a trunk, and can jump across all VLANs that way. A lot of things to look at. Let's take a break. And I do have a quiz for you to take today. Shadow puppets are never out of date. Okay, so let's move on with malware. There's not an E after the L. Everybody says malware, but that's actually looks like malware. Malzer system. I like malware better. But I've had people point it out, like, that does not what that says, Mr. Goodman. There's no E after an L. It's not mail, it's malware.
Say malware.
Malware. Malware. So use Windows security, configure Defender protections and stuff, blah, blah, blah. Windows Defender has really done a pretty awesome job as compared to what I've seen 10 years ago.
Actually, a long time ago. So I actually used to do a little game modding, and I installed this program, and ended up being like a backdoor. Windows Defender never found it. It was like controlling my computer and everything. Locked up my computer, and then he set my computer's password to 123. It's pretty spooky though.
Yeah, it doesn't catch everything, but we're supposed to be like installing Trend Micro as an alternative here, but I'd try to keep just Windows Defender. I've had really awesome luck with it, not needing a third party. It monitors Windows system files and stuff. Used to be able to rename some of the programs like the accessibility wizard. We used to be able to rename that and then name the command executable, the same thing as accessibility wizard. And you could get administrative access to things. That's no longer possible because Defender now detects file changing. It doesn't match when you go to launch. So Windows is really hard to break into now. Not impossible. They still find flaws. Really hard to break into. That's why social engineering has become so big. So this malware stuff, let's look at before we go to the definitions of all of these, what is malware as a class? What is it? Malicious software, it comes through email. What is a virus?
Something that you download something.
So virus is destructive code, and it requires user intervention for it to be able to migrate. Now, it could be as simple as plugging in a thumb drive, but it normally travels via media. In the old days, floppy disk, because that's all you had, and networks were so slow that you put stuff on floppy disks. Too slow to move a half a megabyte file over the network, so you put it on a 1.4 megabyte floppy disk to move it. Yeah. You're like, really, Mr. Goodman? Yeah, things are that slow. So now thumb drives and stuff. So it attaches it to executables or attaches it to things, and then somebody moves a program to another computer and runs it. It infects other executables. A worm does not require a user to do anything. All it requires is computers to be connected to a network, and that the worm will send itself or replicate itself across the network. It doesn't require user interaction. Normally, the user doesn't even have to be logged into the computer. Just as long as it's plugged into the network and running, it can replicate. That is a worm. So they're pretty close. The definition between the two, it's just users don't actually have to be doing anything for a worm to spread. They do have to trigger the virus to spread by running a program or plugging a thumb drive or something. What's a Trojan horse?
Something that he installed whenever he was trying to get gaming on.
Exactly. He installed a program to game mod, and it came with malicious backdoor code. That was a Trojan horse. So you have a legitimate program that has been coded with malicious code. Zombie. What? Anybody? Zombie? What's a zombie? Maybe if I use another word, what's a zombie host? Look at the word under it. It might help you.
I was like, Is a user that's not like a real user or something, or?
No. So a zombie and botnet are kind of one and the same here. So I have a botnet. That is a collection of thousands to millions of computers across the internet that are centrally controlled by command and control servers. The zombie hosts are basically the part of the botnet. So they're just sitting there drooling on themselves, waiting to have an order to go eat that person over there or something. And they're massive. They're the ones that sent out most of the malware and spam. And they are your parents' and grandparents' computers and refrigerators and other devices that have been hacked. That they think, I don't care if my computer is hacked. I don't have anything on it. Yes, but you're destroying the internet because you don't care about security. Rootkit. What is that? These are things that you should really study. These are all key security terms and answers on tests. So if you've not heard of rootkit before, awesome. They're nasty little things to try to find. They infect the kernel of an operating system. Why is that bad?
Because then they have like level 0 or like.
Yeah, they have what's called ring 0 access to the processor. And Defender and any other antivirus program can't run in that same level. And because they're at that level, they can just say, I'm not here, or they can just not report that they're there. And any type of software to try to remove the virus off the system, if it's written as a rootkit, can't see it. Can't even see that the files are on the hard drive because it's like, yeah, I'm not going to show myself.
How do you get rid of it?
You have to manually find it.
Once they've learned about rootkits, they can normally do like hashes and stuff on chunks of the drive to see if something doesn't jive and find them. So they're pretty hard to detect. Once they're detected, then the really smart people have to figure out how can I write code to detect that it's actually on the system.
They can run in safe mode as well, can't they? Since
Yes. Yeah, since they're infected with the kernel, they boot up at every single level of the OS. So they're pretty hard, really hard to detect. They normally have individual executable programs from antivirus vendors that you can run standalone to detect specific rootkits that have been released. But I've not heard of a lot of new rootkits. The secure boot feature with the signatures that are built into the hardware of the motherboard that double checks the operating system and stuff, it's a lot harder to get rootkits into the systems now because they can detect that at hardware boot up time with circuitry on the board. So I've not had to deal with a lot of rootkits, probably because of the Microsoft Secure Boot feature. It doesn't mean somebody can figure a way out. I mean, they figured a way out with using multi-core processors to find what the other core encrypted keys are and unencrypt stuff and things like that. Logic bomb. So what's a logic bomb? An event happens, maybe certain amount of time passes, or something's done, and the bad code is released. It used to be a Chernobyl virus out there that was set to go off at a certain date. That date's of course passed, but So you spread your virus, and you spread your virus, and you spread your virus, and then all of a sudden, like September 11th rolls around and all the computers delete themselves. That would be a logic bomb. Laying in wait. Or maybe you do something, you launch a game and blap. You're sitting there waiting for a certain thing to happen. And then it bombs you.
Can you set that up so like it goes off whenever a specific number of users have it on their computer or something?
Maybe. Spyware and adware. Those are pretty close to each other. What does spyware do?
Like is it like a keylogger or?
Yep. Have you ever heard of AVG or Avast?
I've heard of that.
What are they?
Antivirus software.
Antivirus software. Guess what? They're spyware.
I have Avast.
It's free. They monitor everything you do on your computer, all the programs you run, all the games, all the websites that you visit, and they sell the information. That's how they make their money. They're spyware. What's adware? Well, companies, the spyware companies sell the information, and then they have these other programs like malware bytes and stuff. They keep popping up, buy this, buy this, buy this, buy this. Free software is not necessarily a good thing because most of the free software is not free. You are paying with your information. And free software greatly expands your attack footprint that somebody can steal your identity. That's another reason that I use Windows Defender and try not to run anything else. I've even uninstalled Malwarebytes. Well, they did detect it running on campus, like, no, y'all got to pay for that. You're a business. So we had IT had to run a scan on all the machines and go around and make sure it was uninstalled. They do have a standalone installer thing, Malwarebytes you can put on a thumb drive, and it doesn't just constantly go upgrade, upgrade, buy me, ADW cleaner, adware cleaner. And it's a standalone. I use that when needed, but haven't really needed it too much. So now you know about spyware. Now you've been warned about anything free. Any free software that you got on your computer, you might want to investigate, is VLC, is it stealing all my information and selling it? Some of the stuff are open source and they don't. I believe VLC is an open source one. I don't know that they're stealing, but AVG, Avast, stuff like that. They're selling your info. So that's why I think when you talk about something and then the ad pops up on your Facebook, it's like, hey.
That happened last night. We were talking about Starbucks.
Yeah. You got spyware going on, and just the people that you're around too, if they're also looking at stuff and you got location awareness on, and the people that you are around are looking at certain things, like, he's probably in the same crew, we'll throw ads. They're really smart things. Analytics out there. I'm sure you've heard of ransomware. Has anybody been hit with ransomware? No? What is it?
Give me your credit card or I will.
So they probably already encrypted everything and they're holding your data until you give them money, and then they'll give you the key to get the stuff back. There's been hospitals and stuff though spend like millions of dollars to get stuff back.
I had an email come to me actually not long ago that Google on Gmail, it said this was like a threat. I've never even had an email like that ever. And it was like, I know one of your passwords is this, and they actually had one of my passwords, but it's like I probably shouldn't be using the same password for every website, but I do for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
And but I don't use that password in a long time, so they were like saying that I had to send them like $2,500 or something, or they were gonna like, I don't even know what they were gonna do, but it was the first time I've ever had that happen to me.
You showed us that one website where it tells you if your passwords have been compromised or something, didn't you?
Yep. Have I been cloned?
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yep. Have I been cloned? What I wanted you to do today, we'll probably finish this chapter up maybe on Friday, but I think what slide am I on? What number is this? This is key terms. This is, oh, I'm basically, no, it goes on and on and on and on and more on, and good Lord. Okay. You really want to study these key terms, I'll let you read the test outs. You'll be able to hear the lady talk about all of these definitions. I want to move on to do something. I want you to go to week 2. And I got you a quiz. Social engineering, malware, phishing and vishing, and what is SMS? What is SMS phishing? Smishing, vishing, smishing, phishing, yeah, okay.
I just assume they're all phishing.
They're all, they got different names, but they're all pretty much phishing. Phishing is specifically email, vishing is voice calls. I just got a call at the beginning of class. If you heard my phone ring, it was a vishing spam call. Luckily, my phone alerted me. This is a spam call. I get text all the time. I don't know what it's called with social media when you get the hot chicks that want to be your friends. Take the quiz. The Minions, is that a Warner Brothers production? I don't know. I'll just pretend it's Warner Brothers. I'll be Bob the Minion. So, can you pass? And this is what I want y'all to do.